really talking about today. Yeah.
Hello everybody, welcome to another What Are We Talking About review. Today I'm sharing my thoughts on the new Netflix series Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. So this is the, I guess, sequel series to Wet Hot American Summer, the original movie, starring a huge cast of like Amy Poehler, Paul Rudd, I forget what the main actor's name is that plays Coop. But yeah, it's got all kinds of famous people in it. Molly Shannon is in, I'm pretty sure she's in the real. Chris Melody, like he's from like CSI or something like that. Tons of people you've seen before are in this. So then there was the Wet Hot American Summer, the movie, where there was a bunch of basically 30-year-old people playing 16-year-olds. Then they made a prequel series that takes place at the beginning of the summer. So the same, like, it's just the same year, like 2 months earlier or whatever. And the prequel series was made like 10 years after the original movie, so they were 10 years older, so they were in like their 40s playing 16-year-olds. And so this is like 10 years later. So they're a little bit closer. They're like in their 40s playing, you know, like 20-year-olds. But it's weird. But it adds to the comedy. Like, that's the thing. This is a really weird and quirky style of comedy. Like, it's super outrageous and completely ridiculous most of the time. It's quite an absurdist style of comedy. So well, my first experience with the original movie was I had heard that it was a funny kind of like well-known comedy, but I didn't really know that much about it. Then when I watched it for the first time, I was completely surprised. Didn't expect it to be that tone, and I just kind of, as the movie went on, started laughing more and more because of how ridiculous it is. Like, this is a bit of a spoiler, I guess, for the movie, but after Paul Rudd kills like the third person, I'm like, okay, this is what this is. And I've been on board for everything they've done since. The prequel series was really good. And this series, I think, just continues on that exact same tone and style of comedy that they have been doing so well. Some of my favorite stuff from it was, like, well, first of all, in the prequel series, or maybe it happens in the movie, I don't remember. But at one point, the guy who owns the camp gets turned into a can of vegetables. And so, like, he's just been a can of vegetables for a while. And in this series, at one point, he goes to a restaurant. He's, like, riding with a trucker to a restaurant. Picks up the waitress. They go into the back. And there's a can of vegetables having sex with a woman. And it's just, like, a chick bent over with a can of vegetables bouncing around on top of her ass. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then later on, he's riding in the truck with the trucker. And the trucker's like, oh, that was a fine piece of ass. And he's just like, pull over the car. You can't talk about a lady like that. And it's like, just the fact that people are treating this can like it's a person. Like, he's waiting on the side of the road before he gets picked up by the trucker, and he's just like, it's just a can sitting on the side of the road, and a vehicle drives by, and then the can's just like, wow, didn't even pull over. And then, like, finally, like, the truck pulls over, and he's like, oh, finally. And he just, like, the truck's like, oh, where are you headed? South. Oh, hop in. It's like, as if somebody would pull over for a can. Like, that's just the type of humor that is in this series, and it's terrific. It's very consistent and absolutely hilarious throughout, but it does even have some touching moments, and it does talk about certain things that are real to life. Like the idea of growing older and that sort of thing, especially with Paul Rudd's character when he realizes that he's stuck in the past and he needs to kind of grow up and be an adult and stop dwelling on the fact that he was so cool back at camp, kind of a thing. And you had, like, Amy Poehler realizing she kind of was humbled by her Captain Boomerang there, I forget his name, leaves her, and she gets all down in the dumps, and she realizes that you don't have to be all Hollywood to be able to make it doing what you love in that entertainment industry and that type of thing. And so like it does have some serious touching moments, and it's pretty good in that aspect as well. And so overall it's a terrific series, and I can highly recommend it, but I would absolutely recommend watch it in the order it was made, just because it adds so much comedy to it. Also in this, like, Chris Pine is in this, and he wasn't in the original movie, but he was in the prequel series, and then he gets killed at the end of that series, but then he gets brought back as like he's like a part human, part cyborg, because he wasn't really actually killed. You just got to watch it, and you'll like it. It's really funny. I can't get over how good of a, like, consistently good all of these are, from the movie to the prequel series to this sequel series. And they kind of do leave it in such a way where they could go and explore more. They could just end it where it is, because there's the story of, at the end of the first movie, they say, oh, let's meet back at this spot in 10 years. And they're all like, oh, what time? 9 o'clock, 9:30, that kind of thing, right? But McKinley is like, oh, we have to do it by like 9:30 because I got somewhere to be at 11. And then right at the end of this series, they're in that same spot talking about it. And somebody's like, oh, so what do you, he's like, I got to have somewhere to be by 11. And they're like, oh, where do you got to go? And he's like, oh, let me tell you about this. And then it kind of like cuts. And then later, Coop is talking to his, like, editor, like his book editor, and he is about to tell her that same story, and it fades away as well. So maybe that's what they'll talk about next. Maybe if they do a sequel or something like that, that's what it'll be about. But also, they kind of leave this in such a way where you don't really know if anything was really real, because it ends with the two camp counselors, or like the two people that own the camp, sitting on the beach. The woman is Janine Garofalo, is reading a book called Wet Hot American Summer by Cooper there, and then the guy who got turned into a can of vegetables was sitting there eating a can of vegetables. So it's like, does that mean that everything that we saw was just the book, Wet Hot American Summer, and not actually something that really happened? It's really interesting, and I'd actually like to know, what do you guys think? Was everything real, or was it all just this book? Because with that conversation with the editor, they kind of bring that up, where he says, maybe, like, what if I just told you I just met up with some of my friends from camp and we just had a normal reunion and nothing exciting happened? It's more believable, but would you really want to read that story, kind of a thing? And so it kind of leaves it up in the air. Maybe this was not real. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments section below. Overall, I would rate this series at I'll rate it at a 9.5 out of 10. Like, that's a really solid series. It fits so well with all the other ones, and it's so consistently funny that it's kind of like a surefire thing. You're going to enjoy it if you enjoyed the other ones. So that's why I'm rating it as a 9.5. But I would like to know, what did you guys think? What's your rating of the show? Let me know in the comments section. And until next time, never stop watching TV. Peace.
When do they discuss all the latest movies, or when something big happens in the news? See, that's us. What